This is Monica Perez, and we are here today to read and discuss our part four. It's actually book 5 of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, unabridged meditations. And if anyone needed meditations, it would be me. My world is insane, as you might have caught last time, with literally a circular saw, a jackhammer, and a insane dog as the background noise for it. Was almost did I make this analogy when I was there, like when Tiger Woods' father like shoot off guns behind him and bang on pots like Bart Simpson, so that to increase his concentration when he was putting? Like, that's how I felt. It was quite comical. It was quite comical, and especially given that the subject matter was meditations. And so things have been even crazier. I can't even, don't even. Anyway, um, I say that we just all just take a minute. I hate it when people tell me to breathe. It's great advice because I often do not breathe, but breathe and let's kick back with a little Marcus Aurelius. I feel like there should be background music for this, just to, like the storytime music. Actually, I hear the storytime music and I just feel like, oh, that's good. We're just going to chill. Okay. Let's see what Marcus Aurelius has to say to us this time. Last chapter was basically my joke is, I'm going to die. We're going to die tomorrow. It's the Pink Floyd thing. You're running to run to catch up with the sun. No, the sun is going nowhere. You're dying. You're almost dead. So he's like, don't sweat the small stuff because you're almost dead. And he died like right after he wrote this. So maybe he was in that mode because he was almost dead. Anyway, I am healthy. I'm talking about in a very big picture way. So, no concerns there for the record. Book 5. In the morning, every freaking thing, it sounds the same. I think the last one was like in the morning when you rise. That which rules within, we ought to consider. Okay, so book 2 started with begin the morning by saying to yourself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial, whatever. It's like what my mom would say. All right, book 5 says, in the morning, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present. I am rising to the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Or have I been made for this, to lie under the blankets and keep myself warm? But this is more pleasant. Do you exist then to take your pleasure and not at all for action or exertion? I already have I hope you don't mind that I interject this stuff. I actually originally started interjecting just to make sure there's never any copyright issue. We're definitely having a conversation and not just reading. but there are no copyright issues with stuff this old. So just 2 things. One, I just had a great conversation with Johnny Vedmore, which should be coming out soon. It's about 2 Klauses and pervs everywhere. I think that's the title of it if you're looking for which one it is in some future date. And we were talking about that, what are you here to do? What is your calling? What is your vocation? It's like the power of the talents, whatever. You have to do it. That's what you have to do. And not doing it, as my Russian vet says, would not be a right thing. So do what you're here to do. And a lot of times you're here to just deal with the bullshit. And there's just so much of it. As my friend says, humans, am I right? I guess she'll just call me. She's like, I'm in no mood for humans right now. This has definitely been my week. I am in no mood for humans right now, except for you guys, because I feel like what we are doing is um, lying under the blankets. Like that we're, I always thought that about listening to Ron Paul. Like he's like a warm blanket on a cold day. As Stella says, put quite aptly, so much BS, so little time. But the other thing about this is that it says, should we just lay in the blankets? I used to have what they call dysthymia, just a low, like my regular position was being slightly depressed, which is hard to believe. But I feel like once you've lived like that and then you're not living like that anymore for who knows what reason, I have my theories. You're just grateful. It's like Arturo. It's like so grateful not to be living, under a tree and eating lizards that he's just, except for the screaming, he's usually very grateful. So I'm grateful that I'm not like that anymore. But I was like that all through all school, college, graduate school. I just, I mean, I did. I mean, it could have been all of law school, if I recall correctly, would not get out of bed until my last class was over. So there would be no risk of actually finding myself going to class. I just had so much anxiety about it. Yes, I just want to stay under blankets. I don't have to do that, anymore. I actually don't have that depression or anything. And a friend of mine had said she had a similar problem. And she said, there are people who get up in the morning and like don't dread it. Don't like dread taking a shower in the morning and just doing their day. I did not believe her. I might have mentioned it before, it's true. I mean, these are the poignant thoughts in my mind. So it's possible that you're really not capable of it, in which case you probably want to change your situation. I think depression is often situational. But yeah, you gotta get out of bed. You have to have the courage. And that is why I loved, especially during lockdown when we had the propaganda report community, I felt like we had each other. Like we could just deal with the constant bullshit because we were just like, you guys are crazy. Like we are not crazy. I know I'm not crazy because I know they're not crazy and they don't think I'm crazy. So you just need, a little sense of community and you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, I think. Anyway, breathe. Okay. Have I been made to lie under the blankets and keep myself warm? But this is more pleasant. Do you exist then to take your pleasure and not at all for action or exertion? Do you not see the little plants, the little birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees working together to put in order their separate parts of the universe? And are you unwilling to do the work of a human being? And do you not make haste to do that which is according to your nature? But it is necessary to take rest also. It is necessary. Nature, however, has fixed bounds to this too. She has fixed bounds both to eating and drinking. And yet you go beyond these bounds, beyond what is sufficient. Yet in your acts, it is not so, but you stop short of what you can do. So you do not love yourself, for if you did, you would love your nature and her will. But those who love their several arts exhaust themselves in working at them unwashed and without food. I played a video game once, and I sat in a room for 3 hours, 3 days without eating or taking a shower. And I was like, it was Munch's Odyssey. And I never played another video game ever. You can really take your love of art too seriously. But you value your own nature less than the engraver values the engraving art, or the dancer the dancing art, or the lover of money values his money, or the vainglorious man his little glory, or the gamer his game. That's mine, not him. And such men, when they have an ardent passion for a thing, choose neither to eat nor to sleep, rather than to perfect the things that they care for. But are the acts that concern society more vile in your eyes and less worthy of your labor? See, it's hard because, the community is full of people who are wrong about everything. Don't want to promote their values. I don't want any of that. I mean, if it was like your actual community, your family, your value system, that's why like your society, that's several smart people have said, if the religion is eclectic, you're really not working towards a common goal. You don't want to contribute to society. And that's how I feel. Not religion, but like values is what I'm saying. How easy it is to repel and to wipe away every impression that is troublesome or unsuitable, and immediately to be in all tranquility. Judge every word and deed that are naturally fit for you, and do not be diverted by words of blame or criticism. If it is good to do or say something, do not consider it unworthy of yourself. For those persons have their peculiar leading principle and follow their peculiar movement. Ignore them and go straight on, following your own nature and the common nature, and the way of both is one, as in ONE. I go through the things that happen according to nature until I shall fall and rest, breathing out my last breath into that element out of which I daily draw it in, and falling upon the earth out of which my father collected the seed, and my mother the blood, and my nurse the milk, out of which during so many years I have been supplied with food and drink, which bears me when I tread on it and abuse it for so many purposes. You say, men cannot admire me for the sharpness of my wits. So be it. But there are many other things of which you cannot say, I am not formed for them by nature. Show those qualities then that are altogether in your power: sincerity, gravity, endurance of labor, aversion to pleasure, contentment with your portion and with a simple life, benevolence, frankness, no love of superfluity, freedom from trifling magnanimity. Freedom from I have been feeling rather oppressed by trifling magnanimity. Am I right, Stella? Have you had that feeling? Do you see how many qualities you are immediately able to exhibit in which there is no excuse of natural incapacity and unfitness, and yet you still remain voluntarily below the mark? Or are you compelled through being defectively furnished by nature to grumble and to be stingy and to flatter and to find fault with your poor body and to try to please men and to make great display and to be so restless in your mind? No, by the gods, but you might have been delivered from these things long ago. Only if in truth you can be charged with being rather slow and dull of comprehension, you must exert yourself about this also, not neglecting it, nor yet taking pleasure in your dullness. One man, when he has done a service to another, is ready to set it down to his account as a favor conferred. Another is not ready to do this, but still thinks of the man as his debtor, and he knows what he has done. A third, in a manner, does not even know what he has done, but he is like a vine that has produced grapes and seeks for nothing more after it has once produced its proper fruit. As a horse, when he has run a dog, when he has tracked the game, a bee, when it has made the honey, so a man, when he has done a good act, does not call out for others to come and see, but he goes on to another act, as a vine goes on to produce again the grapes in season. Must a man then be one of these who in a manner act thus without observing it? I'm reminded of Uncle Ted in this way. I assume back in Marcus Aurelius's days, like this is like when they were taming the Germans or whatever. I don't remember. I can't remember now when the hell this was. The Germans were like, this must have been before the Germans, because the Germans were like .AD or whatever. Oh, I don't know. I can't go back. 323, Alexander the Great, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. So anyway, back then, like, doing stuff, people probably had to do a lot of stuff, like real actual stuff, and you could stand back and look at it and appreciate it. But now I feel like this temptation, this problem is worse than ever because, especially in the US, where Clinton and NAFTA was a stated goal, if I'm not mistaken, of making the US a service economy. So where we're like 70% or maybe even 90% produce nothing other than, maybe tech, maybe cellulose or whatever, celluloid, I don't know, whatever, like things on film. But it's almost set up that for admiration, for the respect of others. That's the political versus economic means of creating wealth. Like the economic means is you go out there and you make something, you mix your soil with the toil. The political means is you appropriate the value that somebody else added. And there's so much of that to where it's only about recognition, and you're actually smarter, financial capitalism, if you don't add any actual value. And you can multiply that by so many times because it takes all you have to do is add zeros. You don't have to actually add toil or soil. Must a man then be one of these who in a manner act thus without observing it? Yes. But this very thing is necessary, the observation of what a man is doing. For it may be said, it is characteristic of the social animal to perceive that he is working in a social manner, and indeed to wish that his social partner also should perceive it. It is true what you say, but you do not rightly understand what is now said. And for this reason, you will become one of those of whom I spoke before, for even they are misled by a certain show of reason. But if you will choose to understand the meaning of what is said, do not fear that for this reason you will omit any social act. A prayer of the Athenians. Rain, rain, O dear Zeus, down on the plowed fields of the Athenians and on the plains. In truth, we ought not to pray at all, or we ought to pray in this simple and noble fashion. Just as we must understand when it is said that Asclepius prescribed to this man horse exercise or bathing in cold water or going without shoes, so we must understand it when it is said that the nature of the universe prescribed to this man disease or mutilation or loss or anything else of the kind. For in the first case, prescribed means something like this. He prescribed this for this man as a thing adapted to procure health. And in the second case, it means that which happens to or suits every man is fixed in a manner for him suitable to his destiny. For this is what we mean when we say that things are suitable to us. As the workmen say of squared stones in walls or the pyramids, that they are suitable when they fit in some kind of connection. It's like the talents, I think. For there is altogether one fitness, harmony. And as the universe is made up out of all by, oh, yes, no, I've thought of this with the parable of the talents and what he's saying. That's like the problem with equity or not equity, but equality. It's that we have certain gifts and talents. We have certain capacities, intellectual, whatever. When you have really high intellectual capacity and you use it for good, for the benefit of all, and everybody on earth gives you $1 and is better off by 10 times that, you get $7 billion and they get 70 billion. So like this idea of nobody should have so much money. These billionaires are created. So of course that's not, but there have been ones who add value. So, and then you need, of course, as the report from Iron Mountain would call it, carriers of water. And that's just the way it is. Some people you could not go around and take the poorest people in the world and slot them into CEO positions and think they're going to do the same job, or take people who would perform quite poorly on standardized tests and put them in the top jobs and think that they're going to be able to do it. They're not. And you need to get those people at the top, the people who are actually capable of higher level work, motivated to do it. So you should pay them more and all of that. But the whole thing fits together so that it's better for everybody than it would be without that. Not better for one person than for every other person, like, not, it's just better than it would be if you didn't work together, if you didn't have these differences. I mean, that's just something that I've thought of over the years, and it's true. And as the universe is made up out of all bodies to be the body it is, right? So out of all existing causes, necessity, destiny is made up to be the cause it is. And even those who are completely ignorant understand what I mean, for they say it, necessity, destiny, brought this to such a person. This then was brought, and this was prescribed to him. Let us then receive these things as well as those that Aesculapius prescribes. As a matter of course, many, even among his prescriptions, are disagreeable, but we accept them in the hope of health. Let the perfecting and accomplishment of the things which the common nature judges to be good be judged by you to be of the same kind as your health. And so accept everything that happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to this, to the health of the universe and to the prosperity and felicity of Zeus, i.e., the universe. Yeah, I was wondering if this is about God. Surely he doesn't believe in Zeus. I don't think so. I think by this time they didn't believe in it. I think that's where, isn't that what Plato said, the noble lie? Like, you give them religion so little kids don't have to be like, so why should I be good? You just tell them it, and then they're stuck with an ingrained value system, even if they see through the myth eventually. For he would not have brought on any man what he has brought if it were not useful for the whole. Neither does the nature of anything, whatever it may be, cause anything that is not suitable to that which is directed by it. For two reasons, then, it is right to be content with what happens to you. The one, because it was done for you and prescribed for you, and in a manner had reference to you, originally from the most ancient causes spun with your destiny. And the other, because even what comes separately to every man is to the power that administers the universe a cause of felicity and perfection, even of its very continuance. For the integrity of the whole is mutilated if you cut off anything whatever from the conjunction and the continuity, either of the parts or of the causes. And you do cut off, as far as it is in your power, when you are dissatisfied and in a manner try to put anything out of the way. Stop it. So the dog licks his feet, and he's going to cause little problems for himself. So sometimes I yell at him, but he doesn't listen to. He only listens when you're peevish. Peeved. Do not be disgusted, discouraged, or dissatisfied if you do not succeed in doing everything according to right principles. Finally, something for me. But when you have failed, return again and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with man's nature, and love this to which you return. And do not return to philosophy as if she were a master, but act like those who have sore eyes and apply a bit of sponge and egg, or as another applies a plaster or drenching with water. I couldn't read this again. Do not return to philosophy as if she were a master, but act like those who have sore eyes and apply a bit of sponge and egg, or as another applies a plaster or drench with. Yes, read philosophy when you're in a retirement home, not in high school. I mean, you could do both, but you're not going to get it until your eyes hurt, until you need salve. For thus you will not fail to obey reason, and you will repose in it. And remember that philosophy requires only the things that your nature requires. But you would have something else that is not according to nature. Oh, wait. So when you're reading like 10 different philosophers in high school, and you half the stuff is like, this guy sounds like he wants to jump off the roof. Like, it's not for you. It is literally not for you. You're not going to get it because it's not your nature. You can try to figure that guy out and then understand other people's nature. But I think that's a major thing. I think he's talking about that. It may be objected, quote, what is more agreeable than what I am doing? But it is not this, but is not this the very reason why pleasure deceives us? And consider if magnanimity, freedom, simplicity, equanimity, and piety are not more agreeable. For what is more agreeable than wisdom itself? When you think of the security and the happy course of all things that depend on the faculty of understanding and knowledge. Things are so shrouded that they have seemed to philosophers, not a few, nor those common philosophers, altogether unintelligible. Even to the Stoics themselves, they seem difficult to understand. And all our assertions about these things are changeable. For where is the man who never changes? Never marry a person who isn't not, who can't grow. Turn your thoughts then to the objects themselves and consider how short lived they are and worthless, and that they may be in the possession of a catamite or a whore or a robber. Then turn to the morals of those who live with you, and it is hardly possible to endure even the most agreeable of them, to say nothing of a man being hardly able to endure himself. In such darkness, then, and dirt, and in such constant flux, both of substance and of time, and of motion and of things moved, what there is that is worth being highly prized, or even an object of serious pursuit, I cannot imagine. Okay. So you're never going to be happy if you don't, if you're just self indulgent and don't practice virtue. But on the contrary, it is a man's duty to comfort himself and to wait for the natural dissolution and not to be vexed at the delay, but to rest in these principles only. The one, that nothing will happen to me which is not comfortable to the nature of the universe, and the other, that it is in my power never to act contrary to my God and daemon, for there is no man who will compel me to this. About what am I now employing my own soul? On every occasion, I must ask myself this question: what have I now in this part of me which they call the ruling principle? And whose soul have I now? That of a child, or of a young man, or of a feeble woman, or of a tyrant, or of a domestic animal, or of a wild beast? We may learn even from the kind of things that appear good to the many. For if any man should conceive certain things as being really good, such as prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude, I think those are the actual virtues. I mean, this guy, maybe he's a crypto Catholic. He would not, after having first conceived these, endure to listen to anything that should not be in harmony with what is really good. But if a man has first conceived as good the things that appear to the many to be good, he will listen and readily receive as very applicable that which was said by the comic writer. Thus, even the many perceive the difference. For were it not so, this saying would not offend and would not be rejected in the first case, while we receive it when it is said of wealth and of the means that further luxury and fame. Go on then and ask if we should value and think those things to be good, to which, after their first conception in the mind, the words of the comic writer might be aptly applied: that he who has them, through having them in such abundance, has not a place in which to relieve himself. I am composed of the formal and the material. And neither of them will perish into non-existence, as neither of them came into existence out of non-existence. Every part of me, then, will be reduced by change into some part of the universe. And that again will change into another part of the universe, and so on forever. And by consequence of such a change, I too exist, and those who begot me, and so on forever in the other direction. For nothing hinders us from saying so, even if the universe is administered according to definite periods of revolution. Reason and the reasoning art, philosophy, are powers that are sufficient for themselves and for their own works. They move then from a first principle that is their own, and they make their way to the end that is proposed to them. And this is the reason why such acts are named catharsis, or right acts, meaning that they proceed by the right road. I read a quote yesterday. I can't remember exactly the words, but it was basically, when I die, I will be relieved of the burden of individuality. That's like my worst nightmare. I always say, like, when I die, is God going to know my actual name? Am I going to be able to, will I know my name? Will I be an individual? Maybe not. Okay. None of these things ought to be called a man's that do not belong to a man as man. They are not required of a man, nor does man's nature promise them, nor are they the means of man's nature attaining its end. Neither then does the end of man lie in these things, nor yet that which aids the accomplishment of this end, and that which aids towards this end is that which is good. Besides, if any of these things did belong to man, it would not be right for a man to despise them and to set himself against them. Nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things. Nor would he who stinted himself in any of them be good, if indeed these things were good. But now, the more of these things a man deprives himself of, or of other things like them, or even when he is deprived of any of them, the more patiently he endures the loss, just in the same degree he is a better man. Such as are your habitual thoughts, such also will be the character of your mind. For the soul is dyed, D-Y-E-D, by the thoughts. Now that's worth repeating. I have it underlined here. Such as are your habitual thoughts, such also will be the character of your mind. Because the soul is dyed by the thoughts, colored by the thoughts. Dye it then with a continuous series of such thoughts as these. For instance, that where a man can live, there he can also live well. If he must live in a palace, then he can also live well in a palace. And again, consider that whatever purpose each thing has been constituted, for this it has been constituted, and toward this it is carried. And its end is in that toward which it is carried. And where the end is, there also is the advantage and the good of each thing. Now, the good for the reasonable animal is society. For that we are made for society has been shown above. Is it not plain that the inferior exist for the sake of the superior? But the things that have life are superior to those that do not. And of those that have life, the superior are those that have reason. To seek what is impossible is madness. And it is impossible that the bad should not do something of this kind. Nothing happens to any man that he is not formed by nature to bear. The same things happen to another, and either because he does not see that they have happened, or because he would show a great spirit, he is firm and remains unharmed. It is a shame, then, that ignorance and conceit should be stronger than wisdom. Things themselves cannot touch the soul, not in the least degree, nor have they admission to the soul, nor can they turn or move the soul. The soul turns and moves itself alone, and whatever judgments it may think proper to make, such it makes by remaking for itself the things that present themselves to it. In one respect, man is the nearest thing to me, so far as I must do good to men and endure them. But so far as some men make themselves obstacles to my proper acts, man becomes to me one of the things that are indifferent, no less than the sun or wind or wild beast. So he doesn't give a shit about them. Sorry. He doesn't give an S. Now it is true that these may impede my actions, but they are no impediments to my affects and disposition, which have the power of acting conditionally and changing. For the mind converts and changes every hindrance to its activity into an aid. And so that which is a hindrance is made a furtherance to an act, and an obstacle on the road helps us along this road. We talking about lemonade here? I will say I do like my theory of life and even people who die young. Maybe it's just nice to say, but could be true that we're here for a purpose. We're here to learn something. We're here to maybe discover the true nature of God through the Socratic method, the hard way, by asking questions and having them answered, by having stumbling blocks and then reflecting back the true nature of the universe as well as our own strengths and weaknesses or our own true nature. And once you've leveled up, you die. And if you don't and you die anyway, maybe you come back, maybe you go to purgatory forever, hell, not forever, but whatever. So maybe obstacles are good. Perhaps he will elaborate. He usually does. Revere that which is best in the universe. And this is that which makes use of all things and directs all things. And in like manner, also revere that which is best in yourself. And this is of the same kind as that. For in yourself also, that which makes use of everything else is this, and your life is directed by this. That which does no harm to the state does no harm to the citizen. In the case of every appearance of harm, apply this rule. If the state is not harmed by this, neither am I harmed. Huh? Dude. L'état de moi, c'est moi. The state is me. Is that what Napoleon said? Maybe. This guy can say the same thing. But I believe that the state is our enemy, like Albert J. Nock. Maybe I'll read that next. Our enemy, the state. Such a classic. But if the state is harmed, you must not be angry with him who does harm to the state. Show him where his error is. Well, those would be the people at the top. They're the ones who are doing harm to the state. If he said nation, it would be a little easier to take, but okay. Often think of the rapidity with which things pass by and disappear, both of the things that are and the things that are produced. For substance is like a river in a continual flow, and the activities of things are in constant change, and the causes work in infinite varieties. And there is hardly anything that stands still. And consider what is near to you, this boundless abyss of the past and of the future in which all things disappear. How then is he not a fool who is puffed up with such things or plagued about them and makes himself miserable? For they vex him only for a time and a short time. Think of the universal substance of which you have a very small portion. We are made of stardust or something. And of universal time, of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you, and of that which is fixed by destiny, and how small a part of it you are. Does another do me wrong? Let him look to it. He has his own disposition, his own activity. I now have what the universal nature wills me to have, and I do what my nature now wills me to do. Let the part of your soul that leads and governs be undisturbed by the movements in the flesh, whether of pleasure or of pain. That's hard. And let it not unite with them, but let it circumscribe itself and limit those effects to their parts. But when these effects rise up to the mind by virtue of that other sympathy that naturally exists in a body that is all one, then you must not strive to resist the sensation, for it is natural. But do not let the ruling part of itself add to the sensation the opinion that it is either good or bad. Live with the gods. And he does live with the gods, who constantly shows to them that his own soul is satisfied with its daemon, that portion of himself that Zeus has given to every man to be his guardian and guide, and that his soul does all that the daemon wishes. And this is every man's understanding and reason. Are you angry with him whose armpits stink? Only if it's one of my own kids. Are you angry with him whose mouth smells foul? What good will this anger do you? He has such a mouth. He has such armpits. It is necessary that such an emanation must come from such things. But the man has reason, it will be said, and he is able, if he takes pains, to discover wherein he offends. Well, then, and you too have reason by your rational faculty. Stir up his rational faculty. Show him his error. Admonish him. For if he listens, you will cure him, and there is no need of anger, the stuff of tragic actors and whores. Anger is the stuff of tragic actors and whores. You're going to go up to somebody and say, hey, dude, your pit smells and pits smell. And I think you might get some anger. Just, I don't know. But if it's true, that's what my mom used to say. As you intend to live when you are gone, so it is in your power to live here. But if men do not permit you, then get away out of life, as if you were suffering no harm. The house is smoky, and I quit it. Why do you think that this is any trouble? But so long as nothing of the kind drives me out, I remain, am free, and no man shall hinder me from doing what I choose. And I choose to do what is according to the nature of the rational and social animal. The intelligence of the universe is social. Accordingly, it has made the inferior things for the sake of the superior, and it has fitted the superior to one another. You see how it has subordinated, coordinated, and assigned to everything its proper portion, and has brought together into concord with one another the things that are the best. How have you behaved hitherto to the gods, your parents, brethren, children, teachers, to those who look after your infancy, to your friends, kinfolks, to your slaves? Consider if you have hitherto behaved to all in such a way that this way be said of you, never has he wronged a man in deed or word. And call to recollection both how many things you have passed through and how many things you have been able to endure, and that the history of your life is now complete and your service is ended, and how many beautiful things you have seen, and how many pleasures and pains you have despised, and how many things called honorable you have spurned, and to how many ill-minded folks you have shown a kind disposition. Why do unskilled and ignorant souls disturb him who has skill and knowledge? What soul then has skill and knowledge? That which knows beginning and end, and knows the reason that pervades all substance and through all time by fixed periods, revolutions, administers the universe. Soon, very soon, you will be ashes or a skeleton, and neither a name or not even a name, but name is sound and echo. And the things that are much valued in life are empty and rotten and trifling, and like little dogs biting one another, and little children quarreling, laughing, and then straightway weeping. But fidelity and modesty and justice and truth have fled up to Olympus from the widespread earth. What then is there that still detains you here? The objects of sense are easily changed and never stand still, and the organs of perception are dull and easily receive false impressions. And the poor soul itself is an exhalation from the blood. But to have good repute amidst such a world as this is an empty thing. Why then do you not wait in tranquility for your end, whether it is extinction or removal to another state? And until that time comes, what is sufficient? Why, what else than to venerate the gods and bless them, and to do good to men, and to practice tolerance and self-restraint? But as to everything that is beyond the limits of the poor flesh and breath, to remember that this is neither yours nor in your power. You can pass your life in an equable flow of happiness if you can follow the right way and think and act in the right way. Two things are common both to the soul of God, with a capital G, and to the soul of man. and to the soul of every rational being, not to be hindered by another, and to seek the good in the disposition to justice and the practice of it, and in this to let your desire find its termination. If this is neither my own badness nor an effect of my own badness, and the common weal is not injured, why am I troubled about it? And what is the harm to the common weal? Do not be carried along inconsiderately by the appearance of things, but give help to all according to your ability and their fitness. And if they should have sustained loss in matters that are indifferent, do not imagine this to be a damage, for it is a bad habit. Emulate the old man who, when he went away, asked for his foster child's top, knowing that it was only a top. Like a game, like a toy? I don't know. When you are haranguing the populace, have you forgotten, man, what these things really mean? Yes, but they are objects of great concern to these people. Will you too then be made a fool for these things? I was once a fortunate man, but I lost it I know not how. But fortunate means that a man has assigned to himself a good fortune. And a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, good actions. There's a lot there. I think that was it. That was a good one. I liked it way better than You're About to Die Tomorrow. That concludes book 5. We will resume next week with book 6. However, I may be early or late next week, I think, because I have a very special conversation slated with a couple of gals you know and love. So next Tuesday, I'm probably have an interview and the book reading back to back. I'm not sure what I'll probably do this first. I'll do this earlier than normal. Normally I do 3, let's say 1 or 2. Anyway, just keep posted. I'll have it up on I'll have it ready to go. Or maybe I'll put it on Twitter or whatever, but if you come to YouTube, you'll see it there. Anyway. All right, my people. Yes, it depends on where your treasures lie. Yes. All right. Lovely to see you all. Thank you so much. This is Monica Perez.